Well, hello there, friends. David Nuno here with TexAgs Rewind, and let's hope that Monday to Tuesday is better than Sunday was for A&M. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Today, Jared, I think was more of a, man, that sucks, but hopefully good things are coming. Hopefully. Right, Jared?
Yeah, we just got to stay hopeful. Still got a long basketball season ahead of us as well, and hopefully just end the season off on a good note with the bowl game against Oklahoma State. So
we did talk about that bowl game, Oklahoma State, the Texas Bowl. We did do that. We talked to Tom Hart of the SEC Network about all the craziness happening in college football. We had Buzz Williams on the program. Billy joined me for that interview. That was great. And, Billy Liucci. We talked about Elijah Robinson leaving, the portal, the ins and the outs, the DC, OC, the OCDC, all that and more here on the TexAgs Rewind. I don't want to say I'm shocked because we talked about it on this show last week. It was possible that Georgia didn't get in. I still think a college football playoffs without Georgia, who had gone 2 years in a row, almost 3, undefeated, and basically did, right? Mm-hmm. Basically did, regular season undefeated, is not in the freaking playoffs. I don't know who gets eliminated from those 4. The system is completely flawed. Washington obviously deserves where they are. Texas, hey, they've got the head-to-head against Alabama. Mm-hmm. I think Bama winning the conference championship needs to mean something. They may have got it right, but the system sucks.
Florida State, if it was up to me, by the way, that's exactly the way I thought it would go. Mm-hmm. Okay. If it was up to me, it'd be 1 Michigan, 2 Washington, 3 Florida State, 4 Texas.
Gotcha.
And I don't understand those that say, but Texas beat Alabama in September. What? It doesn't count? Well, Alabama's better. Maybe Texas is better now. And
I think Texas is better
when
than
we
they
get
were.
to the point where we're saying the games themselves don't matter. What are we doing here? Then why don't we just sit down with the committee at the beginning of the year and they say, here's the teams that get to play in the playoff. These are the teams we think's better.
So who would be eliminated from this? Would it be Alabama for you?
Yeah, I just said so.
So Alabama for Florida State, though.
Florida State's unbeaten.
Yep.
They beat everybody, and they played the team, like I said, that was 14th in the own committee's rank.
No SEC team.
No.
Yeah.
Because Texas has scoreboard on Alabama. Alabama has scoreboard on Georgia. Now, you want to say, but Florida State can't win. They're not good. Really? Then why do you have number 5? Because you have them ahead of Georgia. And by the way, Georgia, the committee's saying Florida State is better than Georgia. They're 5 and they're 6. The difference between Georgia and Alabama was a false start on a field goal attempt.
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of issues with it. I think it's flawed. I think it's unfair. Like you asked a team in a Power 5 conference to do one thing, and that's to go out and win every weekend. And they did that. And so to take that opportunity away from Florida State, I found to be patently unfair. Now, one of the problems in fixing the issue, yes, we have next year coming, and that's fine. But there's just so many people to blame, including the ACC itself, when they delayed what would have been a 12-team playoff this year by throwing a hissy fit and trying to get an alliance formed, or forming an alliance, with 2 other leagues that, by the way, only lasted about 10 months. It didn't got shut down when the Big Ten went against that alliance by stealing teams from the Pac-12. So, it put – I know that committee tries really hard. I think, and they're good people, but it put the committee in an unenviable position of trying to sort this out. And their reasoning left a lot to be desired, because if it's the 4 best teams, or if you're saying, as Blue Corrigan did, part of our decision-making was based on, with the coaches in the room, who would you least like to face? Well, the answer is Georgia. There's no way you'd rather face Georgia over Texas, for example. And I think Texas is getting off scot-free in a lot of these discussions, being a team with a loss just because they beat Alabama head-to-head. But, yeah, there's a lot wrong with the process. And I think there's holes in accountability when it comes to this. You send one guy out to answer questions, and he gets harassed for 24 hours, 36 hours, and then you kind of forget about it. It's unfortunate across the board.
How fired up are you guys to play a couple home games in a row here this week and get the Reed Arena crowd back behind you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing, Liucci, like when you're scheduling those games, there's you think about the opponent, you think about the travel, you think about the exposure, you think about the strength of schedule, you think about a lot of things. I think the one thing that I was immature about is the amount of time that you're not in your gym touching a ball. Yeah. And because we played 8 games in 23 days, and 6 of those 8 were not at home. Yes, there were 6 road games, and that's easy to identify. I think what is lost in that is that's less time in practice as a team, but it's also less time for individual workouts. It's less time for guys to get their shots up on their own. It just changes the rhythm, and you don't have a rhythm because you're spending so much time traveling, and it feels like you're more used to getting on a bus and getting on a plane and getting to a hotel than you are waking up in your own bed and or working in your own gym /office. So I was probably immature in regards to factoring in not only what we were gaining, which was a lot of good stuff, but what we were losing, which, we get back on Thursday and without overstating it, everybody is not just physically tired, they're mentally tired and emotionally tired. And so I think we've managed the 3 days we've been home the right way. And I'm hoping from early bird this morning, I'm hoping that we can get back in the groove that we were in the month of November, going into a really, really important next 10 days.
Elijah Robinson was never staying. He was always wrestling with a very tough decision, which I presented from the outset. Him leaving is tough for the program, for the players, for the fans. I think there's not a negative thing I can say about that guy as a coach, as a person, as a representative of Texas A&M. There's nothing negative to say. I wouldn't want to if there was one thing versus the 1,000 good things. But one thing that I think, and with portal and with coaches and things like, don't say the whole thing's falling apart when you're going through it's going to be rough, the transition. I mentioned Brian Kelly. Mm-hmm. People at LSU were like, what the hell did we do? And that's with a guy that had been a wildly successful head coach at Notre Dame, and they were going, what the heck did we do? I remember, people forget this, when you hired a national championship coach from Florida State, there was a little rough patch there in the early going. And I remember I always joke with Steve. And Steve was parroting what many on the boards were saying. This isn't the ACC. This guy's in over his head. He had it made at Florida State. It was handed to him by Bobby Bowden. He's in over his head recruiting in Texas and in the SEC. Remember, he went to meet with one of the 7-on-7 coaches. There were a lot of things early on, and I know ultimately it didn't work. But it didn't. It's not that it didn't work because Jimbo couldn't handle the job. I mean, in terms of he recruited lights out. He got A&M close to flipping it. It didn't work because they couldn't quite flip it. And there were, over time, there were issues holding the program back that he didn't tend to, right? But Brian Kelly, same way. People were freaking out. It's a problem. It's a problem. People were doing the same thing in Austin with Sark. Look how those two have turned out so far. And again, even at A&M, Jimbo almost got it there. He recovered from that beginning where people were going, what's going on here? This kid might not want to come. This kid might transfer. That's going to happen every time.
All right, Kind Jared, tell the people what to do.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss any TexAgs content.
And by the way, so we asked for 200 likes to have Kay Nagley host the show during the Christmas break, and we got 200 likes. We'll have to come up with something else. I don't know what's next, but stay tuned in tomorrow. We'll have something. Thanks for watching.